Hello everyone, my name is Dee Dee Butler and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar presenting data in Vulcan. Our original presenter, Marie Moore, was unable to join us today and we have Amanda Davis taking her place. Amanda is an engineer with our technical services group and provides consulting and training services in the North American region. I'll now hand it over to Amanda.
Thank you, Dee Dee, and thank you all for attending. Here's the agenda for today's webinar. We will be going through many different examples of presenting data in Vulcan. These videos are pre-recorded so that way I could give you the most well-rounded examples of presenting data. I will be voicing over each of these examples as we go. We'll go through drafting sheet editor, multi-view plots, multi-section plots, customizing with plot edit, and some tips and tricks at the end. So drafting sheet editor is found in File, Drafting Sheets. And starting a new drafting sheet, you want to make sure that you are being very descriptive in the name of your drafting sheet. That way the end user knows what they're using, say if they're using this drafting sheet in Plot All Wizard. So the drafting sheet editor comes up and you're going to set the orientation of this drafting sheet and the page size. You can go through and add in viewports. You can use the single mode or multi-mode. Here with the single mode, I can go through and custom put in any size of viewports that I wish. Each viewport is an element within the drafting sheet editor. And as you can see here, I can modify each one individually. Each one also has its own scale bar and north arrows, which you can of course turn on or off depending on which viewports you want to have these elements. You can also customize these elements, such as here we're customizing where the north arrow is, how large it is, and also what it looks like. The rest of this drafting sheet editor panel I will go through in detail after we open up something that has just a little bit more for us to cover. So I'm going to delete out these viewports and let's load in an archive layer that I've created. I'm going to pick up this ArchD file, which by the way I can email to you all if you would like. So when you load in this archive, your color palette might be different from mine. So depending on what your color settings are, it may come in green as displayed here. Simply just highlight the entire data set, go to set color, and pick the pure white that's on your palette. Okay, and make sure it's pure white so that way the plot results in black wherever a white element exists. So with this drafting sheet, I can go through and use the traditional CAD modification tools to make everything look nice. So aligning boxes, aligning text. Here I am relimiting some CAD data to make everything look good, making sure my title blocks all have like the same height and such. So there's definitely there's nothing wrong with going through and modifying like you traditionally know how to modify data. Here, just right clicking, moving the object around. You can still go about customizing your drafting sheet in that way. You can also achieve these kind of results through the drafting sheet editor. So with the drafting sheet editor open and a sheet on the screen, all of these elements we're going to go through. So we still have our viewports. I have my long section, an overview window, a scale bar, just one scale bar for this particular case. I can resize the scale bar here. You can move it around. North arrow can customize. Title blocks, you can create your own title blocks. Being that the example already has title blocks in it, I'm just going to show you where these design elements end up getting created so you can customize like line thicknesses and colors. Here I can customize my rectangles, line thicknesses and colors if I wanted to. Permanent text, remember this is text that will always show up in the plot results. So these are good for putting, say, the company name, department, etc. The text fields here in Drafting Sheet Editor, they're represented as a bunch of X's and they're just placeholders for the end user. The end user can be prompted to fill in these fields. Now, when it comes to legends, you have two options. You can create a block that is dynamic and allows the end user to put in a color legend of their choosing, Or you can make a static legend. Here I'm going through a quick example to show you what a static legend is. You are making this legend a permanent part of this drafting sheet. So keep that in mind, that if somebody goes to use a drafting sheet that you have made a legend a permanent part of, they may not want that legend to be in the final result. And then images. Here you can add in images. In this example, I'm showing you how to modify an image, and I'm making sure I select an image that has a white background behind my company's logo, so that way that white is what gets put on the final plot result. Okay, you don't want to have a color behind your logo. Now, earlier I was showing you how to align entities, objects on your screen with the traditional CAD tools. There is this alignment section in the lower left-hand corner of the drafting sheet editor where you can pick reference objects and align other objects according to that reference object. So as you can see here, I'm aligning text, center, you can horizontally align things. You can also align left and align right. This really helps to get your drafting sheets looking very professional. We have text that is nearby each other that you can definitely see the alignment and how it's lined up. I might have text on the other side of my drafting sheet that I want to make sure line up horizontally with my title block. When you save this drafting sheet, it'll go to your resources folder in your resources database there in Vulcan Explorer. You will see this new layer show up. So I'm hoping going through that quick example of drafting sheet editor will help you make your presentation look consistently professional. The next example we're going to go through is how to present your data in overview, plan view, level view, and or cross-section view utilizing Plot All Wizard. This example is going to use the same drafting sheet that we just customized. I'm going to utilize load screen. I had a screen saved of some geology information from a previous session of Vulcan. Quickly go in, load my screen, all my data comes up. I highly recommend that you guys investigate load screen, save screens if you don't already know how to use that option. So here I'm switching my background to white. I got some drill holes on my screen and I got some triangulations on my screen, and I will explain the white background in just a second. I simply hit the A key on my keyboard to get that white background. We're getting into a cross section, basically setting up my views for Plot All Wizard. Okay, getting into a section view, I'm going to turn on this pattern intersections button on my slices toolbar to see my triangulations filled in. Then I'm going to save this view to numbers on my keyboard. So holding Shift plus the number 1 will save it to view 1. Holding Shift plus number 2 can save this plan view to view 2. Then I can call back on those views by simply just hitting number 1 and number 2 on my keyboard. So now I'm all ready to go. I have my views saved. We can go into Plot All Wizard. Highly recommend putting in good detailed descriptive plot file names for organization purposes and utilize this create or load specifications file. Everything that I pick from here on out will get stored to a spec file that I can use later. I'm picking my drafting sheet. I'm rendering as a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, and I'm not going to use the alternative color set because I already have a white background. Now, filling out my title block, you can use plot variables, which quickly just automatically pull in, say, the date, or pull in the scale. Here we're using scale 1, so it's going to pull in the scale for viewport number 1. There are a long list of plots variables in your help. Definitely check those out. Here we're picking out the legend. Remember that dynamic legend? Here I'm specifying exactly what legend I want to put on my drafting sheet. I'm not going to put a grid on the first view. When I'm setting up the viewport, I want to make sure I click on the screen, hit the number 1 key on my keyboard, throws me into my section view, digitize your origin on this section, and then adjust your extents. And make sure if you have like an overview window like we have in our example, you leave a little bit of room because that data is going to get covered up by our other viewport, okay? Next, setting up the grid for view 2, still no grid. Now I click out onto the screen, digitize my, or pick number 2 on my keyboard to get into my second view, digitize my origin, adjust my extents, and then take a look at the final result. And you see how well the WYSIWYG did with our solid shaded triangulations up in my plan view, and how good my section view looks of my triangulations. All right, so I hope that example showed you how to deliver comprehensive presentations of your data. The next example we are going to go through is how to create multi-section plots from a variety of data sources with Plot All Wizard. Now this example is an open pit example. Here I have a pit design and I want to create plots of my bench levels. I'm going to use view create section to get into a section view, because before I get into Plot All Wizard, I'm going to load the block model onto the screen as well and show my pit design with blocks also on this section. So here I am in a section view. We can see my toes and crests and road design. Now I'm going to go to block viewing, load dynamic model, pick my block model in the variable. Now some tips here for Plot All Wizard and block model is you want to make sure you turn off this solid fill slice intersections and shrink your blocks so that way the blocks that are touching can be differentiated. Add block text if you would like to see not only the color be representative of the color legend, but also see the labels of your grades in the blocks. So we're going to zoom in here, take a look at this. This looks pretty good, and I think I'm ready for some bench plotting. I like to step through section and see what I'm dealing with on each section, so that way when I go to Plot All Wizard, I pick a view that's large enough that will capture all the data in all the sections. So again, going back to File, Plot All Wizard, this time I am going to, again, make sure I put in a file name, create or load a specification. Use this plot multiple sections. This is your key here in this example. Pick my drafting sheet. It's a very simple 11 by 17 single view drafting sheet. Again, render as WYSIWYG because your block model is an underlay, and do not use alternate color sets if you already have your background as white. Fill out your title block. Here is another example of me utilizing those plotting variables. So I'm using bench, which will show up, and then %z% will automatically update with the elevation of the bench for each plot output. Here I'm using my dynamic grid, which is the grid you guys see in the background on the screen, but I want it to plot as light gray, so I chose that. And now here is your section setup. How wide is the width of the view? What is your step size? Where do the sections start? I'm digitizing where that starts. And then you specify the section planes. Are you advancing in an X, Y, Z direction? You can also advance in a custom direction by utilizing the specify plane by digitizing line option. We're going to do 5 steps. We're going to step backwards so we can go deeper into the deposit. All right, we are going to digitize our origin of this first view. And again, I'm making sure when I adjust this extents, I am making this area large enough to capture all the data on the preceding sections. So you just set up the view of the first section, hit preview plot files, and all of your sections, so we defined 5, all 5 of them get created. Plot utility will open for each of the results. Here I can specify my page size and orientation, take a look at the data. We're looking at how the bench %z% turned out. Right, so when we're going to a different section, and we can definitely see that this updated with the elevation that the plot was taken at. And now to print these, we could simply hit print, or you can hit batch print. If you go into the batch print option, it'll show you all the plot files you have in your working directory. And so I can pick them in mass, hit open, and you can plot to a printer plotter, or if you want to plot to a PDF, that is also an option. In this example, I'm setting up the PDF just like I would a printer, picking my orientation, my page size, and then I'm defining or naming what the PDF is. Because I did a batch print, all of these plots are going to get stored into the single PDF file. So let's open up that PDF and take a look. So you see it's all of those plot files that I selected to print got stored to this one PDF file. So I hope that example will help you to save time and increase productivity with your plotting. The next example will be customization with plot edit, where you're going to use plot edit to modify an existing plot or merge plots from multiple sources into one. This is an underground example. Here on our screen, we have some underground ring sets, underground drill and blast type of information, where we have drill holes put on individual sections. And we want to put this into one large ring layout, final plot presentation for operations for drillers. Underground ring design has its own plotting option, this plot rings. So we're going to use that menu along with Plot All Wizard to create a final end result that has all my ring sections, plan view, and long section. Here I am showing you what the drafting sheet looks like for the ring plots. We have a drafting sheet that is a single view for each ring section, and the bottom rectangle has a report that will have the drill hole information of the holes on that particular ring. Now I'm going to show you the drafting sheet we're going to use in Plot All Wizard. This one is a very large drafting sheet, which has a bunch of empty space for me to put my ring sets in. And it has these two viewports, a long section and a plan view section, that I'm going to be able to put onto this layout for operations, drillers, etc. So let's go back into Vulcan. Underground, ring design, plot rings. That's what I'm going to use to generate the plots of all my sections. Here under plot files is where those ring set plots show up. Let's go ahead and open these up in plot utility so you guys can see the individual results of running that option. All of my ring sets are displayed. The drill holes particular to that ring section are reported on. Now I'm going to go and set up my plotting for the plan view and the long section of this ring set. It's good to prep the data by hiding any elements that you do not want to see in any of your views. So here I'm getting rid of the ore body profiles, setting up view 1 and view 2 to be my long section and my plan section. I went through Plot All Wizard just like we did in the previous exercise where we did multi-view plotting. Same thing, giving a really good plot file name, very descriptive, saving specs, and here's the results. We have a large arch E plot out, and we have just the two viewports I populated using Plot All Wizard. So now I'm going to take these individual ring set plots and put them into these empty spaces on my large arch E plot. So now, File, Plot, Edit. This is your tool to merge plots together into one. Open Plot Edit window is going to open up this plot space where your plots are going to be converted back into CAD data in their own coordinate system. Here you pick what plot you want to bring into Plot Edit. You give your layer a name. So all of this is going back to CAD data, as I said, and it will be stored to your OpenDGD. You also want to pick Leave Plot Origin Unchanged. In this one example, because I am going to pick my large arch E first, and I want the origin to stay the same. Now, as I go through and load in the individual, oh, there's my layer, it showed up in my DGD. In Plot Edit Load, now I'm going to go through, and on the same layer, I'm going to load up the individual ring sets and indicate a new plot origin for each one. So here we did ring set number 1, put that nicely in its place, and you just repeat the menus by going and picking ring set number 2 and fill in the rest of the space. Right, so we see our ring sections and our plan view and our long section view. You can further customize this plot edit layer, go through and either add in elements that you may have missed, like some text, quick lines. You can delete elements. So let's say like the ore body showed up in ring sections 1 through 3. Maybe I don't want to have them displayed here. So I can definitely go through and delete them all. You can add text. So here I have a big note section that I left empty to provide notes to the drillers. So you can go through and type in and add more CAD text to your plot edit, or you can copy and paste new text elements in. You can solid fill in patterns of polygons. You can change colors, change line thicknesses, however you need to customize the final result to really bring together all the elements and data that you're trying to present to your audience. Once you're done modifying, you go to File, Plot, Edit, Create. Give this a new plot file name. Try to be descriptive, as I said before. Pick your plot size. In this case, I'm going to use a user-defined because ArchE is none of those A0 through A4 options. So pick a beginning and an endpoint of the plot area. And now we have our result out in a plot file. Again, you can pick up your printer, plotter, or your PDF creator of your choosing, pick your page size, pick your layout, and then print the data. So this all looks pretty good. I've merged my plot results into one final plot file. I see my original ones and then the new .plot file that I created. Closing down the plot utility here in plot edit, I do see that my layer was created. It's been modified. Now it's been saved. Please remember that these plot edit layers are in their own coordinate system. So in order to load them back up and continue modifying, you're going to want to make sure you open the plot edit window. Then load the layer onto the screen. I hope with that example, I've demonstrated easy control over the look of your final presentation, especially in this case where your plot results are coming from multiple sources. Now let's go over some tips and tricks. Here are some tips and tricks for using the WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. I demonstrated modifying my background color before I get into Plot All Wizard. You can increase the drill hole line thickness of your holes to make them really pop on your final result. You can apply patterns to triangulations when you're in that section view to see, those geological correlations. And applying smooth shading to your triangulation solids make them very vibrant and stand out on your final plot. Some tips and tricks for plotting block models. Definitely recommend using the low dynamic model in a section view, turning off the solid fill slice sections, which then will allow you to add those block texts afterwards. Also scale down those blocks a bit so that way you can visually differentiate blocks that are next to each other. Some other presentation tools that we did not cover in this webinar are exporting data to a 3D PDF, and that's really good for those non-Vulcan users that you have to give presentations to or show things to. I actually have an example of that. I'll show you that as soon as we get through these two other bullet points. Vulcan can also export high quality screen dumps of your images so you can put into PDF, PowerPoint presentations, Word reports. And then if you have more advanced plotting scenarios, there is also batch plotting. And I will show you an example of what that 3D PDF looks like. So here I have my ore body, I have a stope, and a drift that I exported out to PDF. So that can be found under File, Export, 3D PDF.
All right, well, thanks, Amanda. It looks like we're nearing the end of our time today. If you have additional questions, feel free to contact Amanda directly or email support@maptek.com. And on behalf of the entire Maptek team, thank you for attending and have a great day.